to episode 3 of the Bulls Recap podcast. I'm Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times. You can find me, obviously, in the Chicago Sun-Times or at J. Cowley Hoops on X. And I don't even want to waste any more time because, you know, when you're in Detroit and you run into Dr. Detroit, a.k.a. Vinnie Love, a.k.a. Papa Doc, a.k.a. the Love Doctor. I mean, the AKAs are endless. You got to ask Vince Goodwill to come on your podcast and do what Vince does, talk NBA. Vinny, how you doing, buddy?
Man, Joe, you have no idea how much I actually miss being around you every day. Like, you had me in stitches last night. You are the craziest person that I know. Like, I want people to know this is not a shtick. Like, this is Joe all day, every day. I've never missed someone so crazy in my life, Joe.
You know what was good last night was obviously rehashing our time together and all that kind of fun stuff. But I thought the best part was finding out just how close I was to pulling off the most diabolical thing in Bulls history of getting Jimmy Butler to wear the number 1. I mean, if I could have pulled that off, that would have gone down as greatness in our profession.
Anarchy.
So
and you're an anarchist.
A little background. The number 1, obviously Derrick Rose, Chicago's hometown kid, and Michael Carter Williams tried to wear it when he came over. First of all, no one stopped him because he did have it for a couple days. Mm-hmm. And it was, I mean, you talk about the villagers and the torches being lit. Well, they trade Derrick, and I think people know in the profession that Jimmy and I were pretty damn close. Mm-hmm. Love Jimmy. Was always Team Jimmy. There was a little civil war going on amongst the Bulls, and I was on Team Jimmy. There's no doubt about that. And he and I were talking in the summer one time, and I was like, you know what you should do? Change your number to number 1. And I thought he'd be like, no. And he's like, I should do that. I go, everybody's saying the number 1 is so precious. You should see if you could grab the number 1. I mean, it's your team now. You're number 1. And he's like, I didn't know he took it that far where the Bulls were like, no, you're not doing that. So
why didn't they do the same with Michael Carter Williams?
I think that was almost like kind of just slipped underneath the which you would think could never happen. But I think it was so quick. They acquired him, and he probably just like, what number do you want? I want number 1. Where they know Jimmy was up to no good by taking the number 1. And I'd like to think that I was the man behind the man.
Brown. You are Boondini Brown. You the champ.
There you go.
You the man.
There you go. Vinny, so, it was awesome working with you. And the one thing I always liked about you is I always felt like you had an old journalism soul. I mean, you're doing all these things now. Yahoo Sports, obviously, the main gig. You're still filling in on Sirius, right?
Yeah.
NBA radio. Yeah. Podcast?
Yes, I have a podcast. Yes.
So, I mean, you're dabbling in all, but I always felt at heart you were an old school journalist.
For sure. Yeah, I'm a writer.
When you look at the Bulls and you were here enough to get a pretty good taste of it, how do they fix this thing? How do they get out of the mediocrity, the hell that they're in right now?
You know what they have to do, Joe.
I know, but
it's crazy. Didn't they try to do that when they traded Jimmy? Like, that's the thing that I find hilarious about this.
Right.
Is when they traded after the 3 Alphas year, which was honestly, Joe, from a writer standpoint, from a journalist standpoint, that was one of the most fun years because every day you knew somebody was pissed off about something. And all you had to do was just, oh, Dwayne, you upset about something? Let's talk. Rajon, you got something to say? Cool. Jimmy, same thing, right? But when you get to the brass tacks of basketball, in the business of basketball, they were like, okay, we can't get anywhere with this group. Okay, fine. We're going to get rid of all 3 guys and start over. Except they never actually bottomed out. And now they've just been good enough to get into the basically, it's been the Chicago Bulls Invitational. It's been the play-in tournament. It's been the Chicago Bulls and Atlanta Hawks Invitational. I feel like
it's always in South Beach too, by the way.
Oh yeah, look. Hey, another team that needs to have some conversations. But if the Bulls, one thing that always made me laugh, and I'm sure it makes you laugh, when Gar Forman and John Paxson were the heads at the top of the snake, and they were saying, we're a championship organization. We judge ourselves by championships. And they never actually did things or made the hard decisions that championship organizations do. They always try to toe the middle. Let's try to make the playoffs and maybe something will happen. Or we'll bring in Jim Boylan and see if something can happen there. Like, they've never made the big boy, really tough decisions because they don't want to go through the pain that championship teams actually have to go through to get there. And so if that means Zach LaVine, he's got to be traded because he's too good to keep. Okay, cool. That's what happens. You sign him to a max contract that he very well deserved, and he looked very good last night, Joe. I know you and Zach have me and you have differing opinions on Zach,
right?
But I think he's too good for you. You will win too many games singularly. You're going to win too many games with Zach and with Vooch that will not put you into a place where you could be in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes year after year, whoever this next guy is. And you got to inflict a little bit of pain. And they've done, the crazy thing is, Joe, Kobe White, really good draft pick. Like, they've had some really good draft picks.
Pax. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This new regime.
Look, can I fall on the sword for Patrick Williams? Because I thought he was going to be a stud. Were you a believer? No, I said I thought. Did you believe Patrick Williams was going to be?
I saw the build and I was like, that's not a normal. It's not Larry Johnson, but it's damn close.
It's a grown man.
Close. It was a grown man at 19. I was like, I have a son who's close to his age. I look at my kid and go, that's not even the same thing. That doesn't even look right. That's why he's in law school. I love him, but that's why he's in law school. And look at Patrick Williams, like, oh my gosh! And
why hasn't it happened for him? Is it like a lacking of a dog, or does he lack the dog?
I think he lacks the dog. I think the tools are there. I don't think he knows how to bring the tools out. I think he's more of a passenger in the car than wanting to be a driver. Yeah. And there's too much of, that's DeMar, he's a legend. That's Zach, he's an all-star. That's Vooch. So my spot has just got to stay right here. There's too much mousiness. Where Kobe, who I didn't see coming, and I even wrote a piece, and I apologized to Kobe. I didn't know he had some Jimmy Butler work ethic in him to say, my offseason is going to be dedicated to covering up all my warts. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to show people. That wasn't the Bulls. The Bulls didn't make Jimmy Butler. Thibodeau didn't make Jimmy Butler. Tibbs admits to that. The Bulls didn't make Kobe White. I mean, these are dudes that do it on their own. I have all the respect in the world for Kobe White. His brother and I might not see eye to eye, but Kobe White, he and I,
is it one of those things where you can't see him in the streets type of thing, Joe?
I don't know. You know me. I'm not afraid of the streets. You're
from the streets of Cleveland. We know.
Bad streets of Cleveland, baby. So you're with Detroit now, but obviously you're in the national picture.
Yeah.
And this is a national. You're looking at this through a national microscope. What has been the talk nationally about what Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, what they're doing? I mean, there was the flip, and the flip looked good for a half the season, a little over half the season. But then when you crash the car, you gotta have a plan, and it seems like they've had no rebound from the crash car. It was catastrophic. It sucked. Lonzo Ball is probably one of the nicest, most humble guys around. But good organizations say, okay, A didn't work. Let's go to B. And there's just seems to be no B with this team.
It seems like almost like a death of like a dream or something. Like they haven't properly mourned what they wanted that thing to be. Like they're chasing that first half of that season where Lonzo Ball and Zach and DeMar seemed like a really cohesive unit,
right?
Where you didn't need Lonzo to have all of the ball handling duties, and you didn't leave everything to Zach and DeMar. It seemed like perfectly meshed, right? Expert putting it together. But since Lonzo hasn't been healthy, and that's a risk that you took when signing him, right? now you have to get to a point, like you said, where you have to pivot and you say, okay, now we're at a different place. And if that means Zach has to go because we have to pivot, and this isn't the same team that Zach was on when he got there here, nor is it the same team that he was on when we had DeMar and Vooch and all this started to put together. And, you know, when them in Miami, I thought them in Miami was going to be the teams in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. Like there was a game in Chicago that I showed up and I'm like, oh, this is a playoff series here. And it just went off the rails shortly thereafter. Now, they keep doing it half-assed, and that's my issue with them. And I think a lot of people around the league looks at them that way. And they're like, okay, the price for everything that you're trying to get rid of or you're trying to bring in is too high. And that's been a common refrain from Bulls front offices for probably the past, 10 years or so, Joe, that when we've been talking about Bulls having to make decisions.
Falling in love with your own product?
Falling in love with your own product.
Yeah.
Falling in love too much with your own product, with your own draft picks, and trying, Patrick Williams can turn it around. Are you betting on him? Well, if he's that great, then why aren't you holding on to him? Don't try to sell me something that you yourself don't fully believe in. And I think that's where they sit, Joe. In addition to, what is the future with Billy Donovan? Like, I know he got the extension, 2 years ago, right? It was a year and a half ago?
Yeah. It was a secret extension. Yeah, we found out about it 2 years ago, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's all this sort of murky gray area. And I think they came in with a good plan, right? They came in at the right time with a good plan, but I don't know if they have a plan. Like when I look at their roster, it doesn't look like it has a lot of nothing screams out interior defense, right? No matter what type of offensive league this is, you still need some interior defense. You still need something to set up, the Vooches and the Zachs to be able to do their thing in the fourth quarter without much resistance on the other side. I just don't know what the vestiges of a plan is. And you gotta, in Chicago, Joe, dude, how are the fans taking this?
Dude,
that's my thing.
I've tried, we've had some private dinners and private happy hours with the front office, and I've tried relaying this message to Arturas. Yeah, I mean, he probably just thinks I'm an ass and he's not going to listen to it, which that's fine. Everyone else does, so whatever. But I've told him, if there's a fan base that is forgiving and will sit back on their hands and let a rebuild happen and still put asses in the seats, it's the Bulls. The city of Chicago is the ultimate place to sell hope because these sheep just slurp it up left and right. There is no, it's a big city, probably, argue the second or third biggest sports market. But at the end of the day, it's for a big city, it's soft. It's a soft market. And it's not Boston. It's not Philly. It's not New York. They don't hold the team to those kind of standards. They wouldn't hold AK and Mark Eversley to those types of standards. They understand the game. They know if Jerry Reinsdorf makes you a made man, you have as long a leash as you want to run with. So why not just blow it up and take the pain that you talked about and make smart moves along the way? Because look, even this season alone, and obviously I don't know how much you've been paying attention. There was like a 10-day period now where we've seen kind of a close game with Dallas till they pulled away, a really close game with Minnesota till they pulled away, one close game with the Cavs, two close games with the Cavs till they pulled away, and it was all a common factor. Luka, star. Anthony Edwards, star. Donovan Mitchell, I don't care what anyone says, star, elite star, with Garland right there, and Mitchell again, star. And you got a couple all-star type players, and that's nice, but you need that dude. And I've written about that. And that dude is Cooper Flagg. And that dude may be Ace Bailey, but that dude is definitely Cooper Flagg because everyone I've talked to, it's not just the physical tools of this kid, it is the makeup of this man. It is high attitude, do whatever I'm told, do whatever the game takes. I mean, it's Alex Caruso, bigger version and way more skilled. That type of mentality on both ends of the floor. And if you don't buy a lottery ticket to try winning that or put yourself in position and they lose this pick to San Antonio, this top 10 protected pick, shame on them because it's already bad as it is, but you still have a chance. And so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, maybe even Lonzo Ball, if he could come back and be healthy and because he's an expiring contract. And I think if they could get him healthy and he's playing 20 minutes a game, I think he'd be a huge benefit to a playoff team's bench. Huge.
Yes.
Could you see any of those three moving, or do you think because of the way the apron's set up, because of the fear that's going on with the cap, that it's just a really bad time to have, forget a $48 million guy like Zach, but a $21 million guy like Vooch who's got one more year left?
It's almost like Oklahoma City in a different way, like Oklahoma City back in like 2009 when all those guys were coming up, and then the Derrick Rose max thing happened where everybody, well, you got the kicker, the 25% or 30% kicker if you had this all NBA player. So then that made Oklahoma City make really harsh financial decisions that they didn't want to make. Now the inverse of that is happening with the Bulls, where because of the harsh luxury tax apron system, you're asking yourself, can we absorb $48 million of Zach LaVine? That has nothing to do to the player.
Right.
I think if Zach LaVine is your second best player, you're a really good team. If Zach LaVine is your third best player, you're a championship team, because what he does in terms of scoring and scoring easily and being able to attract attention without basically having a Luka or someone else around him, that level of player, that frees him up to be the best version of himself. And where, if you want to say his deficiencies don't hurt you, cool. On a night where someone doesn't have it, that means your third best player is not going to kill you. A lot of times your second best player isn't going to kill you. The question is, do you have a $48 million salary slot plus a draft pick or two to attach? Because the Bulls are certainly going to want something for an elite player. I don't think that's the case right now. And I think as Zach's contract, goes, I think, what he's got 2 years after this one?
He's got 2 years after this one. I think it goes up to 47 or 48 next year, and I think it's almost 50 the final year. It's his option too. So, he's going to pick up that option. Yeah, without question.
And what happens is the salary cap is going to rise at a higher rate than Zach's contract is going to rise. So that $45 million thing is going to feel like 30. And people are like, oh, $30 million, that's a lot of money. It is, but in this world where you're playing with monopoly money, is not that bad. So it's almost like you have to hold your breath one more year, hope that either you get bad enough, because I think they were close to trading Zach before he got hurt last year. I think they wanted to trade Zach before he got hurt.
I think Zach knew that they possibly could be trading him, and it might not be a place he wants to. So that's why they, in that press release, they went out of their way to say Zach LaVine and his representation opted for season-ending surgery. That's a weird way to frame a release. If you're on the same page with the guy, that's a weird way to frame a release.
Joe, we've been around some weird press releases from the Chicago Bulls during our time.
One about me.
Oh, I wasn't there for that one. But
no, when Jerry had the press release about me and the whole Derek thing.
Yes,
that was a fun one.
You. It's funny. That I can't say that one. I was going to say something, but that's a little too inside baseball. But the one they had about Tibbs, when they fired Tibbs.
Oh yeah. That was just we know you can't say anything back, and so we're going to make your life as uncomfortable as possible. If you want your money, you got to keep your mouth shut, and we're going to kick your ass out the door. That was horrible.
That was gangster, and not in a way that I can say I respect that. That was just gangster and bad. Yeah. But to Zach. Yeah, Joe, they're going to have to ride this out. Like, they didn't expect the CBA to be as, you know what I mean, in the way that they did. And you
handcuffing. It's handcuffing. Yeah.
But the team, it's almost like the teams did it to themselves, because the players aren't going to sign up for that thing. The teams are doing. Adam Silver has done this. These owners have done this to themselves. Oh. And now they expect their front offices to make sugar out of what, and you can't do that. And the bad part for the Bulls is, or even for Zach looks like he's accepting where he is in his career, accepting where he is on his team. Like, I know we're in the glow of last night where he hit 6 threes in the fourth quarter against Detroit, a team that, has played better and played hard. But that's the profile of a player that veteran teams will say, oh, if he's playing right for them, we know he will come and fit in with us where there's a higher standard. Like you got these Pittsburgh Steelers thing behind you. The standard is the standard. There's a few teams that operate like that. And there's a few teams that I feel like Zach could help, but I just don't know if there's a pathway for that to happen.
So, I think people, it's funny because I think people think that I am a Zach LaVine hater, and I'm not. I hate the contract. Like the man a lot. And I mean, pulling back the curtain. I mean, you know how it is. And, you know, you see these guys every day. So Zach and I think it was in Atlanta. I think I was the only writer there. You know, someone from the organization said, hey, Zach's, and I'm not the only one. Zach's kind of pissed at, you know, you guys haven't had that chat. Zach's kind of pissed at you. So, I mean, you know me, I'm going to confront the situation. So and you know, I don't care if like I said, pull the curtain back. I went up to Zach after I was done interviewing him. Because I will say this, Zach's professional. Yes. If he likes you or doesn't like you, even when Derrick Rose did not like me, he would answer my questions. He wouldn't look me in the eye. He'd look, you know, over me. I didn't give a shit because I just need the quote. I don't care where you're looking. So I always respected that about Derrick, that he heard the question, he answered the question. Zach was, I mean, even better. I mean, Zach, obviously, there's a writer that's questioning the amount of money that he got paid. And I'm not happy about it. And I think he was not happy about some of the stuff that happened over the summer specifically. And again, not just with me, but someone had told me about it. I'm like, no. So we're going to talk about this. So after I interviewed him, you know, Atlanta I have a a late deadline. So I'm good to go there. I said, hey, I heard you pissed at me. And we had a great chat. And we basically ended it with, hey, you have your opinion. I have my opinion. We disagree. And that's the thing I like about Zach is he gets it. I think some of it offends him because he feels like he's done everything right. He's done everything he's supposed to do. And I think he has too. That's not my
yes, such a beef. Yeah.
Right. And I've told him, I said, Zach, you know how many times on the radio I've said, you're the kind of guy you'd like to see marry your daughter. You just don't want to give him a max contract. And he's like, I get it. And his point's valid. Someone was going to pay him. Yep. So I get it, but it was good to have that talk. And yesterday I saw you have a nice talk with them. And I think people think that because we are critical of a player, and again, this is why I like being around you, because you do have that old school journalism approach, that you can't work with that player, or it's that. And there are guys that are like that. Absolutely. There are guys that have, you know, F. Carlos Boozer, F. Jabari Parker. I mean, those are dudes I don't care what happens to them. Don't care. I just don't like the way they treated the media in general. I have nothing good to say about him. Jabari, you know how I felt about him. You were there for that. When I wrote.
No, I was there in the beginning, but I left. I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't see my column when I wrote Jabari Parker's nothing but a 280-pound mope, or 280 pounds of mope. Yeah.
Oh, you got to send me that. Please send me that.
I'll send it to you. So, no, I mean, and here's the thing. It wasn't even about me. It was Jabari's second game, and there was a preseason game. He ran out, didn't do interviews. It was his first game. He was just they almost had to force him to do. So now I'm like, okay, he's causing problems with the PR staff. He's making our job hard. This could be a really feel-good story. Guy comes home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so why is he doing this? And then finally, it was the third or fourth game of the season. It was early. And someone from TV was interviewing him. So I was standing off to the side. And she wasn't asking yes or no questions, but he decided he was going to give one-word answers. And he knows the game. He's been around long enough. It's a TV interview. Don't be that dude.
Right.
And so he's given one-word answers. And I said, you know what, Jabari? I know it doesn't matter to you. You don't need to be in the Sun Times the rest of this year. And I'm sure you don't care. Neither do I. And then I just wrote that column that Jabari Parker is nothing but a 280-pound mope. And then you find out from teammates that they don't like him, that they already view him as, you know, a bad move by the organization. So, but I don't think people understand that for the most part, you could be critical of these guys, but for the most part, they're all receptive to talk to you, or at least talk through it with you, right?
Yeah, I think there's lines, right? And as long as you don't cross a personal line, and I think, but for the most part, what I think is fans think the line is a lot closer than players.
Right.
Players have a greater understanding of what you're saying in context. Even if they take it personal, they know that you didn't necessarily come from that place. And because you're a living, breathing human being and not just through a screen, they're willing to engage with you because they have more of a context of talking to you every day or 3 times a week or whatever, the media availability thing is, and being able to flesh those things out. I'm, me, Joe, I'm the person, I would say all the time that this is a Mickey Mouse operation to some degree.
Absolutely.
And I said it
there are people pissed off about it.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. As long as whatever you say, you're backing up with evidence and you're not saying that this is personal. Like people always looked at me as I'm the Detroit operative. Like this is 1991 or something like that.
You're a bad boy still.
Yes, like this is Terminator 2, and I'm the T-1000 coming back through history to relitigate the Eastern Conference Finals. No, that's not the case. I'm like, hey, I'm calling it like I see it. And what I found out is that players take things a lot less personal than fans and front offices. Front offices take things a lot more personal than y'all think. They're the sensitive ones.
Front offices are the most sensitive by far. I don't even think it's close. And I've had that experience when I was with the White Sox. I've had that experience. Shoot, when I covered Ohio State, you want to talk about sensitivity.
Whew.
Those prick fans.
But they have championship expectations there. But this was back.
With
you
John
covered John Cooper. That's right.
He wasn't beating Michigan. He wasn't beating anybody big that he needed to beat.
We love John Cooper.
You did love John Cooper. So obviously Detroit's not your the only team you have eyes on because you are kind of the national guy now. But let's talk about the Pistons since we just saw them. Yeah. And they have some pieces that I'd like to say. And obviously Cade Cunningham, I think he could be that dude. And even going back to, I think, was it two years ago when he was working out with Team USA or Team Select, and he was just unstoppable that summer. Then he got hurt, I think, and that kind of derailed some stuff. Do you classify him as a guy that you feel like can be that dude, or are there things missing from his game that are just might be too hard for him to overcome?
I don't think it's things missing from his game. And you will understand me when I say this, Joe. The only thing that I think that stops him is like a concentration thing.
Gotcha.
So one thing I respect the most about a guy like Jimmy is that Jimmy had an ability to concentrate really hard for 2.5 hours. And that's like a talent and a skill. Yeah. Like it separates like really good.
It's learned.
Yes.
Yeah, learned.
Yes.
Yeah.
You figure it out along the way. And I think Cade at his age, where else is he going to figure it out except for on his own? I think he's got all the tools. My thing with him used to be, Joe, if he's athletic, he's Grant Hill. If he's bigger, he's Luka Doncic. But he's neither, so I think that limited how high you can go with him. You know what I mean? Because he's not flying. He's not blowing by you.
That's a good comparison. Yeah.
And he's not beating you up. Like Luka's a tank. Luka's going to kick your ass for 40 minutes, and you're going to wear down. Cade is a little different. He's almost more of like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander type. You know what I mean? That's very like smooth and fluid, but you look up and it's like, whoa, he's got 28, 7 and 8. Where did that come from? Like that sort of thing. But I think for that franchise, they have the guy after never having the guy since they've had 2 guys, Grant Hill and Isaiah Thomas. That's the only 2 guys that franchise largely has ever had. And not saying he's that, but he's closer to being that than anything that they've had in the past 20 years or so. He's just got to be able to concentrate for extended periods of time.
All right, I'm going to put you through the interrogation room, and then I'll get you out of here. These are just quick-hitting questions.
Cool.
All right. I have a feeling I know how this first one's going to go, but I'm going to ask.
Okay.
I know if I say best Piston of all time, I know it's going to be Zeke, because I saw you run after him and jump on his leg a couple of years ago. I was embarrassed for you. But favorite Piston of all time?
If it's not Zeke, because it is Zeke.
Then it is Zeke. Okay.
It's
All
Zeke.
right. If it's not Zeke, who is it?
If it's not Zeke, it's Grant Hill.
Okay. Worst player you've ever had to deal with?
As far as like worst player or like worst person that's a player?
Person/player.
Oh, that's a good one. Come back to me on that one. God damn it, Joe.
Best arena right now in the NBA?
Believe it or not, I'm still partial to Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
I love that.
You know what? If people haven't been to Detroit, that place is underrated.
It's growing on me. It's growing.
I like it.
It's a hockey arena, and it's a concert venue. It's a basketball arena third. Like if you see a hockey game there, like, oh, this really makes sense. If you go to a concert, like, oh, this is cool. Basketball is growing on me. But Madison Square, what is it for you? Madison Square Garden is it for me. What about for you?
MSG is probably up there. Yeah, I still like going to Boston too. You know where you're at. You know what you feel it. You know where you're at.
It's like 20,000 people got money on the game.
Yeah. Yep. Favorite city to travel to?
Ooh, you guys are going to laugh when I say this. I love Chicago.
Okay,
I really do.
Sucking up to Chicago.
Well, everybody thinks Vinnie hates Chicago, but Vinnie loves Chicago.
I never thought you hated Chicago. I knew you liked it. Worst city to go to. Worst trip.
It's got to be Memphis, right?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Memphis is dangerous, more dangerous than Oklahoma City.
Oh, that it is. Best media hooper that you've ever played with or against? I mean, people don't realize there's some dudes out there that could ball, and I know you've played with a lot of guys.
That's a good one. I mean, besides me, Joe?
Besides you, who's the best?
Would it be Chris Haynes? Chris Haynes is pretty good.
He's good?
Chris is good.
Okay, I like to hear that. Early season MVP right now.
Oh, the fat man in Denver. That's going to be my answer now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. That fat man is the best player in basketball, period.
I love it. First coach to get fired this year.
Ooh, okay. The first coach always is like in Washington, but they don't have expectations, right?
Yeah, what's their they're being paid to be bad.
Okay.
He's just doing this job.
I mean, could it be Nick Nurse? I don't think
Doc.
I mean, but they owe
all that money. I know.
A lot of money.
It doesn't look good.
It looks terrible.
It looks terrible. Top in your mind, top 3 NBA coaches right now that you say.
That's easy.
These dudes are elite.
That's easy. Pop, Spo, Kerr. That easy. Not Pop, Spo. Spo, Kerr, and who's the third?
Tibbs.
Ty Lue.
Over Tibbs?
Yes.
All right.
Ty Lue can take his and beat yours, and take yours and beat his.
Worst player you ever had to deal with?
Oh, crap. We keep coming back to that. Okay, let me think of beat writer. I didn't really have to.
He's not going to be on your podcast. Don't worry about hurting feelings.
I'm not worried about that. Okay, put it like this. I would say for a year, Rip Hamilton, me and him just did not get in. We did not get along.
Did you fix it? Did it get fixed?
It got fixed. It got fixed like 5 years later.
Okay.
But there were years that if he walked down the hallway and I walked down the hallway, we would not say a word to each other.
We had Rip for the year, and I don't think he ever learned any of our names, and he would just call us my dude. My dude. It was always like he was so glad to see us and be like, my dude. And one day I wanted to be like, you have no idea who my name is, do you? And he'd just be like, no, my dude. But I didn't. All right, last one. This is the fun one. Okay. In our beat, and I believe these were the players in our beat at the time. It was me, you, Nick Friedel, correct?
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.
KC.
Yes.
And Mike McGraw.
Yes.
Plane goes down on a deserted island. Who's the first eaten, and which one of us is the last survivor?
Oh, you're the last survivor, for one.
I don't know about that, because I've thought about that, and I don't think I'd be the first eaten, but I could see me then doing something stupid in between. Like this lion wants to be my pet, or this quicksand. I always thought I could get out of it. We had this discussion yesterday of things that I think I could do. And like, I think I could land a plane if I had to.
Yeah, you think you could deliver a baby. Deliver a
baby. I think I could do the trach where you put the straw in the throat,
yes,
a little hole. And I think I could kind of tame it doesn't even have to be a baby lion, like a mid-sized lion. I think I could get out of quicksand. And these are things I just think I could do. So I don't know if I'd long for that world. But I appreciate you saying that. But
I do. Joe, I just think you've looked death in the face multiple times.
I have done that.
I can't say that I've done that. Who will get eaten first? Nick will laugh at me when I say this because I just think Nick.
No, it's not even a contest. Nick is the first man eaten. Even Sam Smith his old ass would be like, "No, it's him. Don't look at me. It's the bigger one."
I mean, if they're looking for flesh in terms of sustenance, then you probably go to Nick or McGraw first, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think McGraw might be faster than Nick as far as getting away. I think it's Nick.
I love
So,
Nick though. I love Nick Friedel.
that was a when we were all on that beat. That was a fun beat. That was
Yeah,
a
Joe, you
fun
saw
beat.
me get stalked once.
Oh, I did. We're not allowed to talk about that. That was something. Made Los Angeles a whole different trip. And then the one time in Cleveland, I think it was for the playoffs when I had my buddy Dwayne Sheldon was the head coach of Ball and Wallace.
Oh yeah.
And so we all went and played basketball there, and then we had dinner at Mom and Dad's house. I had
That
my
was
mom
great.
pasta dinner for you guys. Do you know? So you probably didn't even put it together. Dwayne Sheldon is his daughter is JC Sheldon. She was number 5 pick overall for the Dallas Wings.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ohio State captain JC Sheldon.
Wow, how did I not put that together?
And then his son is at OU playing basketball.
Really?
Yeah, AJ
basketball,
Sheldon. So.
Basketball family.
Oh, I told Dwayne, by far you were the least talented in your family. By far.
Did he kick your ass after you said that?
No, because he knows it's true. So
that was fun. I was the first black guy to come to your parents' house.
Well, we grew up in Bedford Heights, but then we did move. You might be, Vince. Congratulations. At Strongsville. In the Strongsville house. You might be the first one in Strongsville. Yeah.
Hey, question for you, Joe. Should I believe in your Steelers?
What do you think?
No. Like beyond a playoff team, beyond like, can they get a bye? Because I don't think they're going to get the bye.
They're not going to get the bye. I mean, it's tough. I mean, when you look at it, I think they could win a lot of different ways, kind of like your Detroit Lions. I think they could beat you a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers defensively are better than Baltimore and possibly Kansas City. We'll see. Yeah. It's gonna be tough. It'd be tough. They got some tough teams to get through. But
I like at least Russell Wilson giving his guys a chance to make plays.
There you go. You throw that moon ball up to Pickens and Williams now. Go get it, boys.
I
like Fields. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things
that had a vet next to him. I wish he had a veteran receiver next to him.
I don't, because the stuff he does every Sunday is hilarious because you never know what he's going to do. So I just like seeing it. Get those vets out of there. So, Vince, awesome
Appreciate
catching up
you,
with you. Thanks so much, and we'll have to do this again later in the year. And Detroit basketball, I think we're back there. I don't even know when. But,
at some point. Love you. And the Lions are not my Lions. Let's get that straight. I quit that team years ago, but I get what your point. Love you, man.
You bleed blue at the end of the day.
Michigan blue.
All right, Michigan blue. Okay, there you go. I knew it. I finished your sentence before you. All right, my man. Take care. Thanks, bro. Okay. All right, that was Vince Goodwill. He's the best. I could talk to Vinnie about basketball life all day. On the beat. Professional, like I said, I like dudes that kind of have that old school journalism feel to it. And Vinny, like he said, at the end of the day, was a writer at heart. I always appreciated that. He fit, people don't realize the beat's like a family. And when you have a guy that fits in, it just feels good. It just feels like, yeah, this is our family on the road. We're away from our real families, but this is going to work. And I have fun doing this. So, all right, let's get to the last two things I like to do. The Cowley Island, which I introduced last week. It's kind of my rant of the week. The thing that kind of has me not set off, but, puts me on Cowley Island. Might not be the most popular opinion. Nikola Vucevic. How good has he been? And everybody played the blame game with Vooch. Vooch's fault. Terrible defensive player. We could have had Franz Wagner, even though there's no proof that they would have drafted Franz Wagner with that pick and then developed him into being what he is right now. But people love to play the blame game on Vooch. And I'm just telling you, watch Vooch, because this is Orlando all-star Vooch offense. He doesn't have to sacrifice anymore, which I think people never understood is how much sacrifice he had to do when he came from Orlando, when the ball would always touch his hands, to maybe the ball touches my hands once every 4 or 5 possessions here. And now how do I get myself in the game? And when I get those chances, how do I make sure I do the best I can with them? But people wanted to write him off. And right now he has been, when you look around centers, because of Joel Embiid's start, I'd say Vooch right now has been a top center in the Eastern Conference. So a lot of crow being handed out for Thanksgiving for some people. They can go ahead and eat that. And then the last thing is the list. I like to do a list every week. This week's list, I'm going to give you in my eyes, almost through November, the 5 top Bulls players in my eyes. The guys I think have been playing the best or been the most important for some reason or another. Number 5, Lonzo Ball. I know it's only 3 games. 7.7 plus minus. And I think if they can get him healthy, his stock can go up to where they possibly could get some draft assets back from him. It might be a second rounder, might be a couple second rounders because it's an expiring contract. But I think he is a key piece for this team. And when he's been out there, everything he's been through, I think he's been great. So he's number 5. Number 4, Ayo Dosunmu. He's emerged as the best defender in the backcourt, which I think is the cool thing. You know, they're still not a great defensive team. They needed someone to pick that up. But he has been as good as it's gotten as far as defense. Number 3, Mr. Kobe White. The thing I like about him, 40% from 3. That's great. Can score 28, 29 easily. Leadership. Guy's turning into the leader. He is turning into the alpha, whether it's because of DeMar DeRozan and the influence DeMar has had on him. But Kobe is number 3. Number 2, the guy I just talked about in my rant, the Nikola Vucevic. 20.7 points per game. Okay, not a career high. His best as a Bull, but shooting 60% from the field, shooting 48.5% from three-point range, efficient, attacking closeouts, playmaking, understands his spots, where to go to. I mean, this offense is perfectly tailored for him. Number 1, Mr. Zach LaVine. The thing I like about Zach, I mean, look, he can fall out of bed and score 30. That's not it. It is a willingness. It doesn't mean he is effective at it yet fully, but it is a willingness to say, especially in crunch time, I want to guard their best scorer, their best backcourt scorer. I'm not afraid of guarding, whether it's Donovan Mitchell, whoever it is, Anthony Edwards. I mean, he's tried all of them. He's had some success. There's been some blow-by moments, but where I think he avoided that in the past. So I like the fact that he has taken that on because I think he is starting to understand if I'm going to get out of here, I got to show I am a all-around player. So that's it. That's episode 3 of the Recap Bulls podcast. I want to thank Vince for coming on. I thought it was, like I said, I could talk to Vinnie all day. So until next week, just remember, I've got next.